Joining us now is a very special guest, Spencer Coven, Chief Legal Officer, Gold Law, who has represented 9 Epstein victims. Nine. Now, I've prosecuted a lot of cases, and when I would have 3 or 4 victims, that would be like an avalanche. You, a single lawyer, have represented 9, which tells me that there are many, many more out there, probably that we don't even know about. It's concerning to me, Mr. Coven, first of all, thank you for being with us, that there are 5 alleged suicides connected to this case. Does somebody in this universe want me to believe that 5 people connected to this case all committed suicide? And let's see, there's Epstein, there's Virginia Giuffre, there's the French Epstein, who was a pimp of little girls. There was Caroline Angiano, and there was Leap Sky Patrick. That's 5 people. 3 of those Epstein victims, 3 dead. One is Epstein, and the other is his French counterpart, that they would trade little girls as young as 12 years old. He ends up dead. Wow. Are any of your clients worried about how people connected to this case are dropping dead like flies?
I got to tell you, Nancy, a couple of issues. First of all, the moment he was rearrested in New York when his plane landed, or New Jersey, at that moment, I did an interview shortly thereafter advising the general public he was never making it out alive. And, prophetically, he didn't. I was one of the first ones that said he wouldn't make it out alive. And frankly, I continue to be a disbeliever in the story that's been populated by the feds and the Department of Justice. There are just way too many connections here. I can also tell you exclusively, because I don't know that I've ever talked about this before, but shortly after he passed in jail, I received a call from one of the guards at the facility who had retired. This is somebody that wasn't working there at the time, but was able to speak with me on authority because he had worked there, and said, there is no way that someone within that type of a facility could have the opportunity to commit suicide. This is the most secure, one of the most secure prisons we have in the United States. It is a prison within a prison within a prison. It is 3 levels of high security, constantly monitored, and it was unbelievable to him that somebody in there would potentially be able to commit suicide. And then look at the photographs. This is a gentleman that was on suicide watch just a few weeks prior. And yet they give him sheets, and they give him pill bottles, and they give him wires. In the photographs, you can see all of the things that they gave him that potentially they could then use later to say, oh, well, look at all this stuff he used to commit suicide. It's just absolutely unbelievable. It's unbelievable to me. It's unbelievable to the victims I
Well,
represent.
Spencer, hold on a
And
moment. I want to follow up before I lose the thought. Spencer Coven joining us, Chief Legal Officer, Gold Law, who has represented 9 and counting Epstein victims. I've been in a lot of prisons and a lot of jails. A lot. More than I can even remember since I started prosecuting violent crimes in 1987. That said, Spencer, you're right. Never in any jail, any penitentiary that I have, any youth facility, a juvie jail that I have ever seen, did a cell have as much strewn around as the Epstein jail cell. When I saw that, I'm like, that's impossible. Inmates are not allowed all of those sheets, blankets, accoutrements. That doesn't happen. Why? Because it is a homicide risk. Those sheets can be torn into strips and used to commit a homicide. You do not see that in a facility. And the moment I saw that, Spencer, I knew it was wrong. That what we're showing right now, that would never happen. Anybody in the justice system knows this is wrong. No. N-O, Spencer.
this is top level security prison, right? This is where we hold terrorists and high level prisoners. You're absolutely right, Nancy. There is no way, and I've been inside jails as well in the work that I do on behalf of victims, interviewing people. And this is just impossible. It was impossible to believe when I saw it. It was impossible to believe on behalf of my clients. I couldn't believe it at the time. And my clients couldn't believe it either. It's just atrocious. And I want to bring you back. I've been representing victims going back to the original prosecution of this case in Palm Beach. I represented victim number one. That was a 14-year-old girl that I helped walk through the criminal justice and then subsequently the civil justice system, which started the landfall of future victims of Jeffrey Epstein. And you said before, how many? I can tell you that in my contacts with the FBI during those investigations, there were literally hundreds of victims, hundreds of young girls who had been trafficked by Epstein and Maxwell. They were out there. And then there were more than hundreds that actually submitted claims when the funds were seized over in the Virgin Islands after his arrest. So the victims are numerous. The stories are voluminous. They involve high-profile individuals in the business community, high-profile politicians, royalty, you name it. Jeffrey Epstein had the goods on all of them. And there were a lot of people, I have no doubt, that were afraid of what he had to say.
I'm curious, Spencer Cooven, and I recall when you said this. When Jeffrey Epstein touched down at the private airstrip at Teterboro and he was arrested, you said he'll never make it out of jail. He'll never come out alive. He'll be killed. You called it. How did you know that was going to happen? I know you're not clairvoyant. So you had to deduce from the facts that he would be killed behind bars, and you were right.
I got to tell you, based on the information, not only that I knew at the time that I could disclose, but based on the information that I still to this day, unfortunately, can't disclose based on attorney-client privilege, and the people that were involved in some of these trading for sexual favors over the years, there was just no way. These people were at too high of a level. They were too influential. And someone like Epstein with that type of information, I just knew was never going to make it out of that system alive. It just wasn't going to happen.
We are showing you video now of the prison cell in which Epstein died. His brother tells me he refuses to call it a suicide because he's convinced it's a homicide. And again, he's got no skin in the game, no dog in the fight. It doesn't affect the brother one way or the other, whether it's a or a homicide. He's not getting any money out of it. He's not doing a book deal, as far as I know. He's just saying this is no. If you look at that video, Spencer, it shows the elevator, which is the only way in and out, although I'm sure they've got to have an emergency exit stairs, right? But that said, I think that may be pictured in the video as well near the, yeah, there you go, by the elevator. That said, that doesn't exclude or preclude his neighbors who had been moved in and out of the cell block, who was there that night. Amazingly, those names have not been released. What do you make of it, Spencer?
There are a number of things. And I heard your interview with his brother shortly before, and he makes an excellent point. With respect to the video, we don't see the video of him in the infirmary. We need to see that video to see what wounds he had as he came out of his cell. But more importantly, who was working on that block that night? We need to see the interviews. We need to see the names of the people that are involved. And we need to see all of that video, not just the snippets they've decided to show to us. And we all know in this day and age, video can easily be edited. If you watch that video and the time code on the video, and I've watched it numerous times now, there are sections of that where the time code jumps. And it is weird. It's strange. I don't know what to make of it. But if this is the raw video, I would be surprised. I think they've processed this video through something and that they probably cut things out, but I can't be sure of that. But at the end of the day, release the names of the people that were on that block and let us know who was there so that the public can talk to them and interview them like you're doing here today with me and find out what they know.
Spencer, I think we should demand more than that. I don't want just a list of names prepared by the government. I don't believe that anymore, and I'm certainly not a conspiracy theorist at all. Again, I don't think people can keep their yaps shut long enough to maintain a conspiracy. But unlike any other case that has been closed, this case is closed with the death of Epstein, this is subject to FOIA, Freedom of Information Act. There is no reason for these files not to be released. We were promised the release. It didn't happen. Why? We're being told, oh, there's nothing there. Well, if there's nothing there, then why not release the files? I think we need the entire set of files, not a list that somebody in DOJ makes up pursuant to what their boss tells them to do. I don't believe that anymore. You also say that you're convinced, 100% sure, that everything has not been released, and you are falling back on thousands of hours of surveillance video from Epstein's homes that remain sealed. So you know for a fact everything has not been released.
It is absolutely certain that everything hasn't been released. And the ruse with respect to release the grand jury testimony, again, that is only a very small snippet of information. We're talking thousands of hours of videotape, surveillance, in-home camera videos that were taken from the Manhattan mansion, the St. Thomas Virgin Island mansion, and the Palm Beach mansion that I know exists because I was one of the only attorneys early on in the case to actually walk through Epstein's Palm Beach mansion after the incident and during our case. And I saw firsthand places where he had put the video cameras in the rooms inside of his home, in the corner of those rooms, including in bedrooms, his massage room, and other places in the home. I know it exists. The FBI knows it exists. And I guarantee that the Department of Justice has done summaries of the videotapes. Where are the summaries? Where are the people identified in the videos? Where are the videos? You know, at the end of the day, the public needs to see this information and judge for themselves. And you're right. If there are minors that are identified in there, redact those names. If there are videos of minors, you know, blur the images. But who else was in this home? Who was there? And who was part of this criminal enterprise that Epstein ran for years?
Spencer, question. Guys, joining me, Spencer Kuven, Chief Legal Officer, Gold Law, who has represented so far and counting 9 of Epstein victims. Do you believe, Spencer, that any of your clients, some minors at the time, do they have reason to believe they were videoed?
All of them that were inside the home had a fear that they were videotaped. Absolutely. Because once it came out that there were cameras in the home, then they were afraid that there were going to be videotapes that were going to be released of them. And they still to this day live in fear. You know, I mentioned I represented victim number 1. You know, she has still been anonymous up until this day. It has been almost 20 years since those cases were prosecuted, and both in civil and criminal court. And, you know, even to this day, she's been anonymous, and she's afraid that her identity will be disclosed in some of these videos.
Well, not only should she be concerned about the video being released, and she's in the video, but there are already 5 dead bodies piled up. 5 dead bodies. 3 of them Epstein victims. I assume you've brought that to the attention of your clients, correct?
Oh, I didn't need to bring it to their attention. They brought it to my attention. They are all very afraid. They're concerned for themselves. They're concerned for their family members. You got to remember, this was a defense team, even at the time, that was so hard on these victims that they had people in SUVs following them at all hours of the night, showing up at their jobs, you know, questioning them and making veiled threats, you know, about if they talk, what could happen to them. So they are very afraid when they start seeing bodies pile up around this whole Epstein debacle. And I call it a debacle because of the way that the federal government and the state government handled this prosecution. It was an absolute debacle from the beginning. And now, you know, people are trying to, I believe, cover up the truth and cover up what occurred. Listen, I know for certain.
Well, settle in, Spencer, because it seems like everyone that speaks out meets with misfortune.
Yeah. It's sad. It's sad.
So,
You know, I was going to say, I know for certain that there are individuals high up in the corporate world who have not been disclosed that were customers of the Epstein Maxwell trade. I know they exist. I just can't talk about them because of attorney-client privilege and clients that were traded to them. But they exist and they haven't been disclosed. That information's out there and the government should release all the names.
Okay, Spencer Kuven is joining us, Chief Legal Officer at Gold Law, representing and counting 9 Epstein victims. I'd like you to repeat what you just said in regular people talk, okay? Not everyone is familiar with the intricacies of the Epstein case, and I find what you said just then extremely probative. Please repeat regarding corporate clients of Epstein's.
So I know for certain that a number of my clients had been traded to high-level corporate individuals on Palm Beach Island that would come and visit the island and then make a call to the home and either get Maxwell or Epstein and tell them they were in town and they would like someone, quote, sent over. Those individuals told me in confidence, based on attorney-client privilege, which we then relayed to the defense team for Epstein, those cases resolved and settled quietly under confidentiality. Now, both my clients and Epstein wanted to remain confidential in that circumstance. I can't disclose those people's names. I'm duty bound under my privilege, and I'm not allowed to disclose it. But at the end of the day, I know those people exist, and those people's names should be disclosed by the government.
Spencer Kuven, you know you're preaching to the choir right now. You are preaching to the choir. I know this is wrong. I know this is wrong. And I also know that whoever speaks out and calls it wrong is courting misfortune. I know that. We wait as justice unfolds, God willing. Thank you, Mr. Kuven.
Thank you so much for the time, Nancy.